welcome to 40,000 Layers. In this show, I'm Tashna, hello. I learned to paint a whole bunch of minis and hopefully I get better at them. And Sheepy, aka The Wandering Inn, teaches us about Warhammer 40k lore. So thank you very much to folks over on patreon.com supporting the show, which is patreon.com/40,000 Layers. And they are Sleepy Dragonman, Doozer Pindown, Thornlord, Mark, Particularly Money, Damned Man, Ramona, V Mushroom, Retrograde Vector, Azean, and Grey Blue One. So thank you so much for making this show possible and buying my minis. If you enjoy the show and want to support it, check out the Patreon posts. There are exclusive posts, a custom Discord channel, and patrons can vote for our next topic. Next month, we are going to be focusing on the Harlequins, which won after the Imperial Guard. So we'll do that. And this month is going to be the Imperial Guard, where I'm going to be painting the Scout Sentinel, and hopefully I don't ruin it. So, Sheepy, hello. You can...
Hello.
This is your prompt.
Here I am. I'm
you
allowed
are.
to talk now.
Yes, you are.
Aren't we doing the Harlequins and the Space Marines next month?
Yes.
Yes.
We actually didn't say we were doing Space Marines, but yes, I will agree.
Well, because we're doing two topics next month.
Yes.
Instead of the usual, I say usual, we've already done a couple in this format so far. But
Yes, with the new format, I hope that you're enjoying it. Let us know
Yes.
what you think of it so far.
People seem to enjoy it.
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I
I listened to the bloopers back again myself on that first episode.
I've listened to them like 3 times. It's ridiculous.
Which is impressive because you don't like listening to yourself back.
You get used to it when you have to edit, though, don't you?
You do.
But the Imperial Guard today.
So, technically speaking, we're doing the Astra Militarum.
Right.
Which is the Imperial Guard.
The space military.
Yeah, the
Astra Militarum.
Essentially, Imperial Guard would be very, very hard to copyright. Not least because Star Wars also has the Imperial Guard. And Imperial, the French Napoleonic times had the Imperial Guard. You know,
the entire French.
The French, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just saying, over history, there's been a lot of Imperial Guards.
Can't copyright that.
Well, you know, people try. Remember that whole React debacle? That was fun.
No.
The guys from the Fine Bros, who did all the early React content. You know, try not to laugh at number.
Yeah, I do
100.
remember. It reminds me of Inktober and the guy copywriting that.
Yeah, and didn't a pop star try and copyright a word hot or something like that?
There's been some very questionable,
Yeah.
very, very questionable copyright requests and allowances.
I mean, take your shot, I guess, but it's really weird, you know, you try and copyright React so that everyone who uses React in a title has to pay you some money. It's I can see the business sense in it, but business sense does not always make common sense, I'll say that.
Yeah, and then, yeah. Anyway.
The Imperial Guard.
Astra Militarum.
Pretty sure the Astra Militarum can be copywritten, because no one else aside from 40k can get away with such a ridiculous, you know, the Astra Militarum.
The Astra Militarum, darling.
Yes, well, you know. So, the Imperial Guard, in one form or another, I'm going to call them the Imperial Guard because it's easier to say.
Yeah.
In one form or another, have been the core combat force of the Imperium almost since the beginning of the Imperium. They were different in the past, and we're going to get to that, and we're going to talk about that. But yeah, it's essentially if there is combat for the Imperium, you will almost definitely see the Imperial Guard there.
The nice cannon fodder.
Well, they are cannon.
Oh.
They are cannon fodder, but they're also the backbone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they are. If there's a like a big war between if there's a whoa.
Sorry, every time.
What does it make you think of people are going to start, because I brought it up last episode, that people are going to start requesting you do your war?
It has been in comments, isn't it?
It
but
has
also, it is just every time I hear it, the word war.
Whoa.
I think of.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, it is it's a meme for a reason. Everyone loves the Green Boys. But if there's like a big conflict in a system, you're going to have PDF. You'll probably have the Imperial Navy to some degree, and you'll have the Imperial Guard. Even if the like the lifeblood, the existence of an entire system is under threat, like billions of people going to die. Well, let's say millions of people going to die, right? You probably, it's debatable, but you may not see the Space Marines.
Yeah, because it's not the biggest deal to them.
No. And they have a certain amount of freedom.
There's a cut-off level of when it becomes important, right? Strategically, this planet is important, so fuck them.
Well, yeah, or just like there's not a reason for them to really, you know,
it's not the
change what they're doing.
Other people, right, or something.
Yeah, even chaos sometimes, even Tyranids might not bring the Space Marines in.
It's a pretty big deal.
It depends. Very often, for example, if there's like a gene stealer infestation, the Inquisition will just turn up and fucking blow the planet up. So
no big deal. It's fine.
I mean, like, it's not like it happens all the time, and I'm sure we'll talk about it when we talk about the Inquisition. But the Inquisition does have a tendency to blow planets up. They have the ability to. So
it's their favorite Tuesday pastime.
For me, it was a Tuesday. So the Imperial Guard is it's very difficult to do scale in 40k.
Yeah.
There are times when, you know, someone who's just writing a bit of fluff for a text, you know, like a rule book or something, is like trillions of people on the planet died, and it's like there aren't trillions of people on that planet, man. Like
I was like, sounds legit in my head, to be honest.
Well, that's because 40k is so ridiculous. It's the type of thing you can believe, but like invariably on our planet we have what, like 8 billion people or some shit.
Yeah, but there are planets of different size, you know.
Oh, sure, but even still, if you're going to try and claim that trillions of people died on one planet, I'm going to probably call bullshit. Trillions. And like, so you have the PDF, but the PDF is for the Imperium essentially.
Some people are going to be like, what's PDF? Planetary Defense
Force. Yeah. And, you know, fighters. Planetary defense fighters, why not? Sounds like a...
Fund. And I'm like, that's not the word that I want.
Sounds like an anime. Planetary defense fighters. That's or something Marvel would make.
The Tau?
So, the Planetary Defense Force is a localized military force. Invariably, it's under the leadership of its military commanders, but ultimately the planetary governor, usually. All Imperial planets must have a planetary defense force. It doesn't really go into how well equipped or well trained they have to be.
Okay.
And it doesn't take into account things like war. So they can deal with local riots, insurrections, that type of thing. But when you get down to like a Tau invasion, or Tyranids, or Orcs, or Eldar, or Dark Eldar, or literally anyone, even Chaos and all that, like demons and stuff starting to turn up, um, it's not really going to cut it because the scale is too big.
Yeah.
They'll usually a PDF force will last for a little bit of time and then get. Actually, usually the PDF tend to turn on the planetary governor and the Imperium and join the enemy, or turn out to be heretics or gene stealers or whatever.
No,
So
we're not supposed to do that.
well, there's a general thing. Like you
Okay.
do also have sections like special forces and
Yeah, they're just
elite
susceptible
guards.
to. I mean,
Yeah.
if a giant chaos demon was coming at you, who's to say?
Yeah. Um, Comparatively, the Astra Militarum, the Imperial Guard, are there to be a space force as opposed to a planetary force. They are intended to essentially go anywhere there is conflict and deal with it, whether it's defensive or offensive.
Okay.
Very often they will also kind of garrison really important places. Take, for example, Cadia.
Mm.
Cadia was a great example. Spoilers. um, so the training for the Imperial Guard is actually pretty full on. You know what? That's not fair to say. The Imperial Guard is almost more of a concept, I guess, because ultimately all of the Imperial Guard regiments have their own traditions, their own uniform, their own preferred style of combat.
Okay.
And some, like the Cadians, are like super famous and super, badass. And others are, a bit less known or a bit less. So sometimes it could be just a small regiment. Sometimes it could be thousands and thousands of regiments of a certain group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They do all come under the command of the Lord Commander Militant, who's the leader of the Imperial Guard. I'm not sure who the current one is off the top of my head, actually. I could probably look into it, but it would take a bit of time for me to find out.
Jeff.
Maybe it's something I should know.
It's called Jeff.
Well, interestingly, one notable Lord Commander is called Heth. So close.
Well,
yeah.
Potentially then.
But it's very possible. I don't know they've got to have said it somewhere in a book or something. Yeah. But I had a quick look into it, and I was like, I'm not 100% sure who it is at the moment. So
okay,
it's probably not super important, or it is, and everyone's going to be angry that I don't know who it is.
If you know,
anyway,
let us know.
Please let me know. But I believe originally, if we're going back 10,000 years plus, the Imperial Guard, they weren't the Imperial Guard then, they were essentially all under the War Master. All the Space Marines, all the military, all the Navy, all the everything came under purvey of the War Master. And I believe when the Imperial Guard was formed in its current incarnation, the suggestion for the title was like War Master, for obvious reasons. they didn't go with that, and I think the leader of the Imperial Guard was like, I don't want to be the War Master.
I don't want to
Like
be
that.
associated with that. Thank you.
That's not a name we really want to. It's not a title we really want to. I want to be
Encourage.
associated
Can you
with.
imagine if like the orcs heard of it? They'd be like, "Oh, great! That's the person that we have to fight." Like that one person.
Well, so to give you an idea, I know we haven't really done the Horus Heresy yet, but Horus had the title of War Master when he did his thing.
Oh.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah, we'll pass on that.
Yeah, it's not the best.
Horace.
Oh, Horus.
Ruin a lot of things, buddy.
Even titles. Um. So the two comparisons, or not comparisons. Essentially, the Imperial Guard is considered and referred to as the hammer of the Emperor, just purely because of the insane amount of force they can bring to the enemy. It's like hammering something,
Yeah.
Whereas the Space Marines are called the scalpel of the Emperor because they are smaller in number, but they can be very precise, and it's a very like
Surgical
powerful
strike.
surgical strikes, very powerful, concentrated hit. Whereas the Imperial Guard is very much it's like hitting with the if you were to like bring the full force of the Imperial Guard and point at like an enemy, a planet, a system, or something, and go attack, it'd be like hitting a fly with a wrecking ball.
I'ma get him. I mean, well, it might not even work though.
Yeah, it's pretty OTT.
Oh yeah, it's overkill. May as well use your forces more effectively.
Yeah. Which, one of the reasons why the Imperium is not completely powerful and ascendant, because, humans are most likely the most populous species in the galaxy, although that's also, the scale problems with 40k as well. I'm thinking about orcs, I'm thinking about Tyranids.
Yeah.
Technically, the Tyranids aren't completely in the galaxy. I don't know, but I'm going to go with that assumption for now.
Yes.
Um,
We'll just stick with it.
yeah, like I'll just say things like they're facts, and it should be fine.
Yeah, if you say it with enough vehemence, people believe you.
Yeah, people will believe me. No one knows
All
anything
the
about
time.
40k lore, so it's okay. But that one of the reasons why they're not the most in control, the most powerful, the kind of they haven't wiped out all Xenos and everything is that that's the further they go out into the galaxy, the more territory they have, the more worlds they have, the more they're spread out.
Yeah, the more they have to cover.
There's no point in claiming and colonizing like 5 or 6 systems with multiple worlds if 10 years in the future you let some orcs come around and stomp all over it.
Yeah.
Or even worse, you let gene stealers like turn up and start infiltrating
Make the
you.
foothold, yeah, because then it also deters people or planets from accepting the Imperium, right? Like the Adeptus Mechanicus, I imagine would have been like, no, thanks.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna look after us after you go, so.
Not that we're gonna get into it properly right yet either, but you also have the squats who are very similar to the Mechanicus. It sounds like that. Well, it sounds like they're going to be very similar to the Mechanicus, where they're allies, almost, as opposed to like
Keep forgetting about the squats, and when you say it, I'm like, it takes me a second to connect.
I can say space dwarves if you like, but
no, it just takes me a second.
Well, they're not back in yet, and
yeah,
they've been away for a long time.
I say yeah, like I know, but yeah.
I think the squats went away in like the late 80s or something. So,
Wow.
mm.
I don't know when they're due to come back.
The announcement was reasonably recently, but
Yeah, just I like the date for a codex or anything like that. I don't know.
yeah, no idea.
Never mind.
If we're doing a squat episode, I may have looked it up.
Yeah, you may have looked. Sorry.
It's all
Typical of me to do this.
good. So yes, in terms of in terms of like hierarchy and uniform and training and like everything, it is very, very diverse in the regiments.
Mm,
So the only thing really that kind of brings them all together is the fact that they have to have a commissar
yeah.
to maintain discipline and morale,
Yeah.
and also root out corruption and heresy. Aside from that, very, very often you would not recognize them as being in the same faction, aside from the fact that they're humans and, you know, they have guns.
Hmm.
To give you an idea, we'll go into the regiments a little bit more, probably in the second episode, I imagine. I'll probably like talk about the regiments a little bit and then go into proper detail in the next episode. But to give you an idea, there are the Talon Desert Raiders, whose planet was bombarded by virus bombs during the Horus Heresy,
Nice.
and then Orcs invaded.
Oh.
Oh wait, was it Orcs? I think maybe no. The Orcs was the other one. Yeah. So I think it was virus bombed by Chaos forces. Chaos invaded, and then the Talon. At the time, they were just Talon, but they became the Talon Desert Raiders because their whole world was turned into a desert by the virus bombs. Spent like 10 years or something fighting guerrilla tactics in deserts and becoming experts at that.
Oh.
So sniping, blowing up supply lines, I don't think they ever really had a pitched battle for like 10 years. They just shot people and ran away, and they got really good at it. So at the same time, you have the Valhalla Ice Warriors, who interestingly are completely different from the Talon Desert Raiders, because they live on an ice world and their world gets invaded by orcs a lot, I think. And they fight completely differently. You know, their gear is very heavy clothes and all that type of thing. When they go to regular worlds, they get very upset because it's too warm. They like things cold.
It's not icy enough.
The Valhalla Ice Warriors are actually quite proud as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a tendency to, regardless of where they go, still wear their uniform properly and be proud of it. Which, considering it's designed for an ice world, isn't as great if they get sent to like a jungle world.
Yeah.
And it's all hot and everything. They're like, no, I'm gonna wear my fur hat, and it's like, but your brain is melting. It's like, yes, but I'm proud of my melting brain.
Yeah, I looked up the minis because that's how I do, and the weapon choices seem very different as well from what I can see.
Yeah. Even things like that are very. I want to say diverse, but I'm very
individual
varied.
To the
very individual.
To the faction. Well, I want to say factions, but that's not right.
Regiments.
Regiments, that's it.
Yeah, and one of the cool things about the Imperial Guard that I think they aped a little bit with the Space Marines, maybe, is that essentially the Imperial Guard regiments. There's so many of them that you can make your own, and I have.
Yeah.
And you know, you can make some really interesting and out there ideas for Imperial Guardsmen regiments, and it makes sense because they're all so different already.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
I think that's really interesting. Like, I think people, I definitely did assume the Imperial Guard are sort of all very the same, and it's just the
Mm.
foot soldiers, and they're just gonna charge ahead and like,
Oh, one of
um,
the reasons I love the Imperial Guard is because they have such character in all of the different regiments.
yeah. And I know that like I've played as one of a character in one of the regiments that you made,
Yeah.
um, and that was fun and ridiculous, but that was still very light. And then seeing these a bit more in depth, or like chatting about it a bit more in depth, is it's good.
Yeah. So, I'm going to question you on something. It's not
Okay.
something you know. I'm wondering whether you can take a guess on this.
Okay.
What do you think the primary tactics of the Imperial Guard are?
Um.
So you have all these regiments, gear, equipment, everything.
Yeah. Shoot
Um,
them real good.
I, I feel like that'd be the tactic for anyone with
I
guns,
feel.
to be
I
honest. You know,
mean, it's not wrong though, is it?
no,
So.
it's not. You know what? My fault for like framing the question as I did.
Do you want to reframe it?
I don't know how I'd reframe it. That shoot them a whole lot wouldn't be a valid answer, to be honest. That seems unassailable. Any other like thoughts?
um. No surrender. No prisoners. Root out the heretics, but
Like,
like light mode.
that's more directives than tactics.
I know. I'm like tactics. I don't know. Throw bullets at them. Like, what do you want? From
No,
me?
they have guns, and most of them are las guns. They don't even have bullets.
Oh. Um.
Throw bullets at them. That's straight out of Hot Shots Part 2, I think.
um. Just probably normal combat style of. I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
You
What.
literally just went and played and was a warrior, a soldier in paintball.
Yeah, and I mean, I was really
Did
good at
you
it,
did
but
you learn no tactics during your combat experience?
so I sniped.
I think you got shot in the head, didn't you?
Like, yeah, to be fair, all day I only got hit twice, and I shot a lot more people with paintballs than I got hit. So I'm pretty happy with
Clearly not an orc. Good to know.
no, I'm not. I am. I sat quite comfortably behind my cover, and I was sniping at people. Although I did run around a bit.
Oh
And
my
shoot people.
god.
What?
You're a towel.
Shit.
You're a filthy towel.
Filthy
oh
towel.
my god.
Oh, I'm pretty
Can't
sure people
believe it.
in the universe snipe.
Yeah, the original before you said like I sat back and shot from long range and didn't get hit much. I was gonna say like probably like an Eldar Pathfinder. That's kind of like a scout sniper.
That's worse.
Eldar is worse than Tau?
They're annoying to paint.
Oh, well, you're not painting yourself.
Yeah, no, I had a really good time. But I guess just general warfare, advance and take ground and
So,
that kind of thing.
the kind of official the main combat tactics of the Imperial Guard is to overwhelm the enemy with their endless numbers.
Yeah.
While at the same time,
Shooting them real good.
destroying them with artillery and charging in with tanks.
Hell yeah.
So it's basically numbers, artillery, and battle tanks.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what the Imperial Guard love to do. Preferably, but not necessarily needed. They move the tanks in with troops, and they do that a little bit after, World War One was very heavy on the artillery.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like a day at the beach for some of the Imperial Guard artillery barrages.
Yeah.
They go over the top a little bit, but then again, we're in 40k. They always go over the top a little bit.
Every tactic is like ramped up to 20 ramped up to 40.
Yeah, if they ramp it up to 20, then they double it
And
just for good measure.
just to be sure. Yeah, perfect.
So we're going to talk about something called the Solar Auxilia.
Okay.
Uh, the Solar Auxilia was essentially the Imperial military forces starting from the Great Crusade. Essentially, once the Emperor had taken Terra
Hmm.
and set his sights past the Sol system, which is, the system that Terra's in, um, he realized that he wouldn't be able to conquer the galaxy, like reconquer the galaxy, reclaim humanity without a very, very superior military. And we're not just talking superior in terms of like the, space marines. He needed manpower
Yeah.
over a massive area. And the space marines, even though there were like loads and loads of space marines, they still wouldn't be able to do everything.
Yeah.
So, what he essentially did was he created the Imperial Army. So, not the Imperial Guard for now, just the Imperial Army. And it became part of the Solar Auxilia. The Solar Auxilia was essentially the Navy, the Army, everything involved in the war, in the fight, in the like conquest, all came under, you know, the the Solar Auxilia.
Yeah.
And they did a really good job. They went out, they helped to reclaim everything, and one of the deals, as more and more human worlds came back under the protective umbrella of the Imperium, was that the Emperor said, "You are now under my protection. You are now part of the Imperium. Pay us some taxes, but pay us a tithe."
Pays a whole bunch of people to join this.
Yes. So the more
Uh-huh.
it's very clever. The more worlds he took, the more people he had in his army,
Mm-hmm.
which I believe is very Genghis Khan. I believe that was one of the things Genghis Khan did a lot. So
Romans did it a lot.
Romans love to do it too. That's very true.
So yeah, it stands to reason because it comes up quite a lot. Sort of the Roman parallels.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I believe even the like groups of instead of regimental, they were called solar cohorts. So
Okay. Yeah.
cohorts, I believe, are is like a Roman word originally. A cohort, I think. So yeah. Now, again, we haven't talked about the Horus Heresy that
Mm-hmm.
much.
Yeah.
We will.
I know
Yeah.
bits and bobs.
You know bits and bobs. I believe you know that the Space Marines were divided into chapters
Yep.
because the legions were too much power under individuals.
Yeah, because they were so loyal to their Primarch, and that can't be trusted. So you got to split them up.
Yes.
Hate you.
So, with that in mind, what do you think happened with the Imperial Guard slash the Solar Auxilia when they're all, the nave, everything is under one set of
Mm.
leadership during the Horus Heresy?
Yeah, no, that's not all right. We're very suspicious of anyone collating power at this point. Please, can we split them up?
Yeah. So during the Horus Heresy, we'll talk about this more when we talk about the Horus Heresy properly. Essentially, yeah, a shit ton of PDF, Planetary Defense Force, worlds, and a crap ton of the what is now the Imperial Guard, was then the Solar Auxilia, joined Horus.
I didn't know that bit.
Yeah. The Horus Heresy was quite literally like pick any civil war in
Mm,
human history, like real civil war in human history. It was a lot like that. Literally everyone against two sides, everyone against everyone. If you're British, then take War of the Roses. If you're American, the American Civil War. I was going to say Revolution, but that was the other one.
yeah, so it makes sense. Yeah. Break them all up again.
Yeah. So after the Horus Heresy,
Make more administrative work trying to keep them organized.
hmm, well, Horus. What happened to Horus happened to Horus, and the Horus Heresy was over. Although it's never
Just
really
say that.
over, but you know, I'm glossing over it,
I
so we don't.
know.
So you don't get the opportunity to say wait so much.
Mm.
Um, to prevent such a large scale civil war, rebellion, whatever you want to call it, within the armed forces of the Imperium, the Space Marines, the everything, they were all divided and broken down a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
The Space Marines were split into chapters. The Imperial Army was essentially just destroyed, and it was they took away the link between the Imperial Navy and the Imperial Army. They
Yeah.
weren't the Solar Auxilia anymore. They were the Imperial Navy and the Imperial Guard.
Yeah.
Officially known as the Astra Militarum, but only officially in lore because it took them quite a while in real life here with the mini game and everything for them to call them the Astra Militarum. They were the Imperial Guard for quite a while.
Okay.
So now the Imperial Guard were kind of reorganized and designated into planetary units called Militarum Regimentos. Basically, military regiments. I don't know why it needs to be so difficult, Games Workshop.
Copyright.
I know, right? I feel like they learned with the whole Imperial Guard fiasco, and they're like, anytime anything happens, let's make it a little bit spacey so we can copyright it if we need to. And then, essentially, they divide them into even smaller regiments based off the planetary units. So, for example, you have Cadia. Cadia technically is a system, is a planet, and there's the Cadian regiments.
Mm-hmm.
But the Cadian regiments is also the name for the unit, the force. However, they're divided into, you could have like the Cadian 515 infantry regiment, or the Cadian 212 armor regiment.
Yeah. Okay.
Which basically allows for less kind of concentration of force, but more control of that force.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good and it's bad. It does definitely reduce the likelihood. Like if one regiment falls to chaos, it's just that one regiment usually. Like sometimes they influence other regiments, but it never turns into what the Horus Heresy was.
Yeah, it doesn't go too far.
And they did the same thing with the Space Marine legions. All of the still loyal Space Marine legions became separated into smaller chapters.
Mm-hmm.
So the Black Templars, for example, are a chapter whose founding legion was the Imperial Fists, led by Rogel Dawn, for example. So, what generally happens here is because the Imperial Navy doesn't have any ground troops, and the Astra Militarum doesn't have any. I think the Imperial Navy is called the Imperialis Navis or something like that.
Yeah, that would not surprise me at all.
That's just a guess, but I don't know
Mm.
for sure off the top of my. I can actually check. I can wait. I can wait. So
I
myself.
thought they had quite a generic name for
The Imperial Navy, known as the Navis Imperialis. I got it the wrong way
Oh,
around, but
come on
there you go.
now.
I mean, close enough. So what it means is that if a regiment rebels or turns against the Emperor or the Imperium, they won't be able to really go anywhere because they need the Imperial Navy to travel anywhere and like spread the rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
If an Imperial Navy mutinies, like if a fleet mutinies or if a ship mutinies, whatever, they don't really have the ability to conquer anywhere. Like they could go around and shoot the ground, shoot planets, I guess. But
They
you know,
don't. Yeah, yeah, makes sense.
it really limits the ability, and essentially, all they needed was for probably trillions of or more people to die during a massive rebellion.
No big deal. Jesus.
Yeah, there you go. You live, half of your population dies, and you learn. Perfect.
Perfect. It's fine. There's plenty of other humans
Hmm.
for the Imperium to use.
So the we probably won't get too much into the minutia of like how the Imperial Guard is run and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It would be interesting for a proper full on like lore video. Like so you can go into the gritty details and be like, okay, so there's the Lord Commander Militant, and then there's the Administratum and the Ordo Officio Prefectus, which is of course the commissars and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the Militarum Ordinatus, which is but we're not going to do that, don't worry.
Okay.
Um, invariably, the regiments have their own personality. They have, obviously they'll be told where to go. They get their orders and they go and do it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's less because them being so diverse now allows them to specialize and to have their own personality, have their own uniform, have their own equipment. It means they're much, like if you have a problem on an ice world, you're probably going to call for the regiment that is really good at fighting
On
in
ice
cold
worlds.
climates
Yeah.
on ice worlds. If you can, not guaranteed, but you're not gonna call for the Katachans
No.
who are from a jungle world, and if you do, well, at least that makes a funny story. But invariably, it means that there's a little bit less control, I guess, and a little more in interesting stories. The main way they have control is through the commissars,
Mm-hmm.
and what's the best way to describe the commissars? The commissars are essentially. Have you seen any have you seen any like World War II stuff with the Russians in it, the USSR?
It depends what you are trying to.
Like Enemy at the Gates
No.
films,
No.
etc. So essentially, there's a scene in Enemy at the Gates where there's like a commissar, and it's in the Battle of Stalingrad,
Mm-hmm.
and they go over the river, and they all get given half of them get given a gun, half of them get given ammunition. They've had no training. They've basically been recruited, brought in, and basically thrown at the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And their instructions when they get given the gun, one gets given the gun, one gets given the ammo, is when the person with the gun falls, you pick up the gun and start firing. And then they are taken to an area in Stalingrad and basically told to charge. And they charge, the Germans shoot them, and then they retreat. And then the commissars, who are at the back of the charge with a machine gun, shoot anyone who retreats.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah. That's fairly standard for commissars. 40k would be like it's a it's a little bit of a trope of a like not all commissars are like that.
Yeah.
But that's the meme for commissars,
Yeah.
is that they're assholes who do that type of thing. A lot of commissars also tend to get hit by enemy snipers who don't exist.
Oh, yeah, shot in the back mysteriously.
Yeah, well, that's where you find snipers, right? Behind you, behind your own lines.
Yeah.
Just happen to be standing right behind you with a knife. Damn snipers!
Walked into my knife 9 times.
So yeah, I'd say to do a very basic overview of a commissar, the political officer, essentially a mix between secret police, military police, and like morale officer, I guess. Some commissars can do really well. One of the most famous Imperial Guardsmen in 40k, and also one of my favorite characters in 40k, is a commissar. Commissar Yarrick.
Oh, I know of Yarrick.
Yarrick is awesome, and I love him.
No bias then.
No bias at all. I mean, he is part of the orc meme.
Yeah.
Like, I think we've spoken about him when we talked about orcs, actually.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
I probably won't be able to resist in these 2 episodes talking about Yarrick. So we'll probably talk about Yarrick.
Claw guy.
Yeah, he's the claw guy. And the laser eye.
Yeah. Yeah.
But essentially, they are tasked with using any means necessary to ensure loyalty and moral purity of their regiment.
Mm-hmm.
They can override or execute the commanding officer of the regiment they're attached to if they want.
Yeah.
They can do that with anyone in the regiment.
Yeah.
So, they're basically above the law and also kind of the law.
They are the law.
Yeah. I don't want to say it, but yeah.
I'll say it. It's fine.
So, when you have good commissars, it can be very helpful. It doesn't always mean you get good commissars, but you can.
How does one become a commissar? Are they just promoted, from within?
You see, I have prepared for your wait, sir, and I am ready immediately with an answer.
Yay!
Boom. I knew this was going to come up.
It's very important to know.
I'm a little bit worried from here on, but we'll see how this goes.
Okay.
So, commissars are recruited from the students of the Scholar Progenium.
Sheepy.
Yes.
The heck is that?
This is what I was worried about. So, the Scholar Progenium is an aspect of the Adeptus Ministorum. Adeptus Ministorum is the religion, the ministry, essentially, the church. And it is responsible for the upbringing, education, and training of orphans, mostly from people who have died in the service of the Imperium, very often officers, nobles, etc., who served in the Imperial Guard or Imperial Navy.
Yeah.
And they are known as the progenitor, the progeny of the war.
Of those people. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So essentially, it is a military academy, I guess,
For orphans.
for orphans. I mean, there's a lot of orphans in fucking 40k, you know.
I was thinking, like, then they're just loyal to the Imperium because they don't have any family.
Yeah, we could probably do an episode on Scholar Progenium at some point. It's quite interesting, but generally they'll go on to become officers, special forces, planetary governors, Arbite, Adeptus Arbite. Don't worry about that too much. I don't wait, so be it. Or even like members of the Inquisition. And a lot of the ladies in the Progena become Adeptus Sororitas, Sisters of Battle. Interestingly as well, the Adeptus Sororitas are the only ones who don't have an S in Adeptus. They're Adepta Sororitas.
Oh, okay. I was like, but you said S.
I did say it. There were, but I meant in the Adepta part.
Right. What I was just thinking then. Sorry for this. Wait. So.
Okay.
So they're trained from being young children as orphans throughout the thing. So maybe they bring out more specialized, like military folk. Because when do the Astra Militarum start training? Like as adults? Because
it depends on the regiment.
Right, because obviously, like, planets have a tithe. So if they already know who's going to be tithed, do they, like, train them from, like, basically from birth? Or is it decided at a certain... This is a very specific question. Is it decided at a later date who will stay on the planet and do PDF and who will go do administratum or who will work, like, normal jobs? Like, what... How is that just how does it all work, Sheepy?
Okay, so which question would you like me to answer first? How? Should I go how?
Just how now?
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's better than wait. So how? Okay. So, it depends on the regiment. Regiments really do differ wildly from regiment to regiment. I'll use the Cadians as an example.
Okay.
The Cadians are very proud of their military service. I believe I will have to look this up, but just to make sure I'm right. But I believe they start training when they're 10 or 8. By the time they're a teenager, they can usually... They're usually, like... That's right, they have a youth army. They're called the White Shields. Let's ignore the problematic aspect of child soldiers. Who are also apparently called gun babies, which I didn't know, but okay.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So... I believe that they start serving. They start training when they are around 8-10 or so.
Okay.
By the time they're 12, they're kind of let's call it regimented because I can't think of the actual word. They're trained and able to do things like take apart a las rifle, put it back together.
Right.
Military drills. They do like crawling through, barbed wire and pig guts and all that traditional training stuff. In In general, I think it's further on. It depends. It does depend on the regiment, but I would say, as a rule, probably around like 14 to 16 would be when they'd like join up with the regiment and kind of go from there.
Okay. I think that makes sense because then they all have their sort of similar amount of training, and then I guess anyone who was more proficient
Yeah.
has proved themselves by that point. Okay. I accept that answer.
Oh, okay. 14 it appears
Yeah.
is when
Yeah.
the Cadians joined the White Shield. So that's not as bad as it could be. Which
It's not great.
yeah, no, honestly, saying 14 isn't too bad for joining the army is
It's a very
not something I enjoy saying.
very imperial army.
But that's from my perspective. From 40k, I guess you can understand it. It's not the best of places, and
Grim dark universe for a reason. Yeah.
we're not saying it's okay. It's the important thing to highlight here.
Yeah,
It's not okay.
But in 40k, it's not surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to give you an idea of to give you an idea of like the extent of especially the more famous and well-known Imperial Guard regiments, you know, like the wiki for the Imperial Guard is fucking long. Like it is so long. However, the wiki for the Imperial Guard regiments usually is close to as long. So they have a lot of lore about them individually as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So you know, there's a lot on them, and pretty much, I'm not wanting to go into the deep details on this. So I would say the other things to talk about reasonably quickly before we kind of close off this part would be the lasgun. I would say comparatively, I'd compare it to in terms of power, it'd probably be compared to like probably a pretty large caliber sniper rifle or something in power.
Okay. I was gonna make a joke about like a 2d6 or
if we say that if we say that our modern rifles and etc. are like 2d6, then I'd say that the lasguns would be like 2d10.
Okay.
That kind of like comparison.
Yeah, I was gonna say they have to have progressed beyond us.
Like if you get hit with a shot from a lasgun, it'll take your arm off easy. Like just completely just slap.
Got to roll
Done.
on that table to see which limit hits.
Yeah.
I remember those.
You remember? Good. But it is also probably one of the weaker guns in 40k.
Yeah.
And if you're using a lasgun against a Space Marine, you're pretty much screwed unless
Yeah.
Even in the tabletop game and also in the lore, I would say depending, it's difficult because it's depending who's writing it, right? If you're writing for the Imperial Guard, they're probably going to take down a Space Marine. If you're writing for the Space Marines, one Space Marine could take an entire planet probably. But as a general rule of thumb, I would say a Space Marine could rip apart a squad, which is about, I think, 8 to 12 Imperial Guardsmen.
Yeah.
Without sustaining injury or much problems.
Yes, just the generic rifle. Yeah.
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 Like Chaos Space Marines could charge an Imperial Guard squad and take a whole load of lasgun hits and not take pretty much any real significant damage.
Can't get through that AC is what it is.
And that's the problem the Imperial Guard face, essentially. Is they have a really reliable and decent weapon if you're firing at people without armor and technology. But aside from
numbers, there you go. That's how they win.
they don't just have numbers, they have tanks and artillery and ships.
And sentinels.
And sentinels.
Ooh.
Take a moment to look at the sentinel.
Look at the sentinel that I'm definitely painting right now.
Absolutely. But yeah, the like the Basilisk, the Lehman Russ, these are badass fucking tanks.
Mm-hmm.
And it really helps to make them viable. A lot of the time, you know, the foot soldier of the Imperial Guard is a little bit of an afterthought when it comes to...
Yeah, it's like they're just sort of there.
But tanks break down, tanks break, and once they break, you can't really move them around. You do need foot soldiers, and the foot soldiers of the Imperial Guard are very important too.
That seems so condescending. Like, you're important too, I promise.
Like, go look at a fucking Baneblade, and then look at an Imperial Guardsman, and be like, which one?
I know.
You know,
but it just made me laugh.
yeah. Yeah. Aside from that, you have the Ogrin, the Ratlings, different like abhuman types.
Mm-hmm.
Ogrin are like ogres, Ratlings are like halflings. They're both human with mutations that are like officially recognized. There's a whole load of heavy weapons squads, special weapons squads, penal legions, a crap ton of like really fast tanks and APCs. You have, for example, the Chimera, which is literally the point of the Chimera is move very quickly with lots of men in it and just dump them out into the battlefield and go and pick up more men.
I want to look at this. I think I have seen that before. Yeah.
Chimera is like very standard for
Mm-hmm.
It's
got like a snowplow.
Yeah, well, it can do. Yeah, and then you like, to give you an idea of how fucking just different each regiment and everything is, kind of for the end. You have Rough Rider regiments, which are just cavalry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cavalry.
Yeah, there's a So I know that we'll talk about them, but there's a regiment called the Attilan Rough Riders, who are pretty much just cavalry.
I just don't understand how they can exist in 40k. Like, I'm like, horses exist?
Well, it's kind of cool because there are worlds that are either feudal or even feral.
Uh-huh.
Where there's not much or there is limited technology.
Yeah.
You get instances where you have like really impressive port cities, and then the rest of the world is like farmers with pitchforks. Or not even pitchforks, farmers with I don't know.
They have no pitchforks, they're farmers, all right? That's not a big technology, Sheepy.
Fair. But essentially what it means is, you know, there are a lot of worlds in 40k where they just have horses to get around.
Yeah.
Or another type of mount. Yeah.
I guess that's fine, but it does feel a little bit like the Imperium is screwing them over a little bit. Like, oh yeah, we'll take over and we'll bring you into these wars, and like, but we're not going to help you out with technology and stuff.
I mean, there's so many of them. I'm just sending you a picture of another mount that Rough Riders use. It's called Bukali.
Looks like it plods along.
It can actually be reasonably fast. It's used in like deserts and places like that.
Mm-hmm. It looks a little bit like a long neck. What am I thinking of?
The Brontosaurus.
Brontosaurus?
Giraffe?
Giraffe? Not a giraffe. Not those kind of feet. Yeah. With the feet, and it just is shorter.
Yeah.
Diplodocus, that's it.
Diplodocus, yeah. I believe that the Talon Desert Raiders use Macaulay's.
Yeah, that makes it says on that about Yeah, associated regiments, Talon Desert Raiders.
Yeah.
Um,
And then you have like the Krieg Death Riders. So the Death Corps of Krieg have a Rough Rider formation, a Rough Rider unit called the Death Riders. What they do is they charge and die.
okay.
They have their own like genetically mutated horses, which are like
They
better.
look weird. Yeah, I'm looking at them now.
Yeah, and they have like lizard claws on instead of hooves, which is quite cool.
I know.
I think they also have gas masks on.
Yeah, I'm looking at like I can't decide if it's a mask or if it's
It's a
Mechanicus
mask.
kind of skull,
Mm.
but um
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
it looks yeah because the Krieg are wearing the masks as well, so that was so cool.
they and also a lot of these Rough Riders have like explosive tipped lances and stuff as well. So
Yeah, they all have a lance, and then there's all these tubing going. I want to paint this pony.
you want to paint a Krieg Death Rider?
Heck yeah.
That'd be cool. But yeah, the lances quite often will be tipped with explosives and all those type of things. So it is useful, and you know it's 40k. So if it's a little bit unbelievable, it's still believable because
Yeah.
that's just how 40k rolls.
It's like I didn't even question it at all. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure that they'll do that.
That's fine. But yeah, that's the. I mean, we've got a whole load more to talk about on the Imperial Guard. I'm kind of like paving over a whole load of stuff, but
I mean, it's sort of overarching, isn't it? So it's all right.
oh yeah, for real.
Alrighty, let's wrap up for this episode.
Next episode will probably go into the individual regiments and maybe a couple of characters.
Ooh, that'll be nice. Okay. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, do check out the other videos and check out Sheepy's channel and the Patreon. And we will see you next time.